Hey, it's your boy Hendo checking Indo coming to y'all with another video. And today we got Africans speaking on how they truly felt. This African woman, and it's one of the African elders, is speaking on how she truly felt about Black Americans, but she also brings it back to what she learned about Black Americans and what changed her perspective. And I think this is an interesting video to get into, so we're gonna get into it and I'm gonna give you my perspective. Let's go.
Look, I know sometimes you feel like God don't be around, but don't let that get you down. It get better when you smile. And sometimes it get easier to frown, but don't let the struggle get you down. It get better when you smile.
That was legitness.
All black men.
You know, my husband studied in the US and I always was like very critical of African Americans. And then I would say, oh, okay, yeah, I know. They're famous for basketball and music. What else? And my husband would say, start researching pre-colonial Africa and see who's writing. It's not Africans, it's them. So give them the dignity and the respect that they deserve, because while you live on this continent, you have done very minimally to research this continent before colonization. And when I had to do that for my PhD and the first book that I've written, I shocked myself because most of the writing sits them. So I then said, okay, I was ignorant. I amend myself. I am now self-critiquing and snapping out of it. They are not only good for basketball and music and art. When African Americans are truly Afrocentric, even the term Afrocentrism, they came with it. They are the ones who've cautioned us and said, Pan-Africanism is this, guys, but Afrocentrism is this. You need to posit everything you're doing. If it's psychology, it's okay. We know the university could have been UCT, it could have been Oxford. They trained you the Western way. But as an African, go now and develop African psychology. Go and read Africa pre-colonially, how the relations were. Come with it down all the way. From that, you'll be able to craft what you call African psychology. So they're saying to all of our things, let's do that. So yes, I say to people, I love Africanism, but I've gone beyond that. I'm Afrocentric. Everything for me is about Africa and being an African.
Now, I don't have a problem with the way she looked at Black Americans before she got here. I feel like that's how the whole world looks at Black Americans. Yeah, they're talented at making music and they can dance and they can rap. But what else can they do? You know what I mean? They don't do anything else. They don't know that we're responsible for majority of all Black inventions that's ever been invented in the whole world, which are very, very, the refrigerator, traffic light, things that are used every day by people. Black Americans created these things. You know what I mean? So looking at us like we're a monolith, that's because they've been conditioned by media to look at us as all the same, and we all do the same thing, and we're all just either a basketball player or a rapper. That's when she was talking about, look at the research done and look at the research papers written about pre-colonial Africa. Who's writing all these papers? And that's what I'm saying. When you look at it, we've spent a lot of time as Black Americans, and I think this is a huge problem, focused on Africa. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with Africans or the continent of Africa. But like she said at the end, I'll forever be Afrocentric and I'll forever be for Africa. She don't care about a Black American. Africa doesn't include Black Americans. And if it does include the Africans who were put into slavery, because I don't believe they're Africans. But if you do, that's fine. If it does include the Africans who were brought to the Americas in the transatlantic slave trade, then why does Africa have a United African Nations thing where they didn't accept Haiti, won't accept Haitian? You know what I mean? When we're all Africans, we all come from Africa, then why aren't you helping out Haiti right now? Their TPS status just got ended. Why aren't you inviting them to your countries? Why aren't you trying to do something to help them build their country back up, or get their infrastructure together, or help them elect leaders, go in there and help them get rid out the criminals and bring Haiti back to its former glory? If it had a former glory. I'm not well versed in the country. That wasn't a diss, I'm just saying. Black Americans have always been the one pushing Pan-Africanism, Afrocentric. I'm not gonna be able to say that word. I'm not even gonna keep trying. But yeah, Pan-Africanism, Afrocentrism. I think I said that right. And those type of things were all, like she said, coined by Black Americans, created by Black Americans. So this is my problem with Pan-Africanism, is when you want us to, we've created this concept of a together Africa. Black Americans have basically created this concept of a together Africa, a unified Africa. Africans don't accept that. They're not the ones pushing that narrative. We're the ones pushing that narrative. We're the ones doing all the research. I was arguing with my sister one day. She was on FaceTime with an African guy from, I don't know how she knows him or whatever, but we're arguing about us and Africans, and I'm like, they have the same curriculum as us. She's like, no, they don't. No, they don't. I'm like, they're being taught the same shit in school. They're being programmed the same way as us. She's like, no, they're not. He literally was like, yeah, we are. Like, our whole curriculum is basically your curriculum. So in order for them to even learn about pre-colonial, or the truth about pre-colonial history, they would have to dive into their history. You know what I mean? They would have to dive. I'm not saying there is no Africans that do that, but what I'm saying is Americans have more throughout history delve into the history of Africa, the freedom of Africa, the enrichment of Africa, getting Africa back on track. And now I think that shit is done. Like, and I think that's why you see a lot of Africans angry that about FBA and delineation, because you can have the Somalians saying we're not African, we're Middle Eastern. They don't care. You know what I mean? If the Jamaican said we're not Jamaican, we're not African, we're Jamaican, they wouldn't care. But as soon as the Black Americans come and say, the one who you want to go for reparations for so you can steal our reparations or get a piece of the pie, those are the ones that you truly, really only care about. So why is it all this Afrocentrism, Pan-Africanism, but not with other black countries who were enslaved? What about the black people who were took over to Brazil? Are you going to go help them out in the favelas and slums that they're stuck in? Like, where does this black end and begin? Why is it only a pivotal thing for Black Americans to keep pushing and keep being? Because I feel like Black Americans are the ones who brought Pan-Africanism up. So it's not. There's no way we can make this work with people who don't even have the ideals of Pan-Africanism instilled in Africa. They all look at themselves as different countries, different ethnicities. It's the most diverse country on the world. So even just calling them all Africans is doing them a disservice. There are multiple different groups, multiple different tribes. Africa's, I'm gonna make up a number right now. Probably like 4, 5, 6 times bigger than Europe. Probably like 10 times bigger than Europe, to be honest. So if Africa is 10 times bigger than Europe, but you can take this one group of European people and say, oh no, they're not the same. They're Italian and they're German and they're this and they're that and they're Polish and they're this and they're that. But then you have a large continent with the most diverse genes on it, and you're telling them, no, you're just all African. And all black people around the world are from you. That's African. You know what I mean? So this is what I hope my Black Americans wake up from, and this is what a lot of us have woken up from, and this is what these Pan-Africans are still trying to hold on to, is the fact that all this research has been done on the African continent and pre-colonial Africa. We haven't yet to do enough research on pre-colonial America. And now that people are starting to do that research and bring forth other hypotheses and theories and findings and of that maybe there were black indigenous people on this continent, you have all the pushback from the Africans, the Pan-Africans, the Jamaicans, the Haitians. It's like the Black Brits. It's like, damn, what's wrong with you niggas? Like, you don't understand how many times I be scrolling on TikTok and see those lives, and they like FBA is a FBI psyop and blah 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 blah, and be the panel prompt or whatever. And you click in and you're watching it. It's a Jamaican, a Haitian, a African, a Nigerian, a Ghanaian. It's and then the worst part of it all, it'd be a Black American in there letting them. I just got in one the other night, made all the Black Americans leave last night, matter of fact, because I got in. I'm like, y'all niggas sitting here anytime it was an African, and anytime anybody bring forth any information that was going against what he was saying, he's like, shut the fuck up, you ignorant nigga, your IQ levels are low, and you do and just talking shit. I'm in there patiently waiting just to cook this nigga up. I'm waiting. And the people in there, all the Black Americans are like, yeah, our people are confused. I got in there, I was like, can I just talk for a few minutes before you cut me off? Nigga, I start ranting. I was like, nigga, fuck you. Fuck any Black American in this live, nigga, that's in here letting this African talk to you because you might have some African ancestry, which means you come from them, so they have the right to say whatever the fuck they want to say to you or do whatever the fuck they want to do. Nigga, please, bro. Nigga, please, get the fuck out of here. And that's what's so annoying about this shit, bro, is like, that's the worst people in the world. The Black Americans, I even think they worse than a Candace Owens or a Brandon Tatum. Because, nigga, you're sitting in a live with other ethnicities, people talking shit about Black Americans, and you're a Black American. And you're disagreeing with Black Americans because we're saying we're not African. So that's a big enough disagreement for you to go against your whole group, your whole ethnicity, and gang up with ethnicities that obviously don't have your best, they obviously don't care about your people. Obviously. But you'll sit in their lives and kiss ass and be like, yeah, nigga, as soon as I start ranting getting on the Black Americans, I'm like, bro, I'm finna screen record, screenshot all you niggas, y'all weird as fuck. We finna be on y'all TikTok. They all dropped out the live. I'm like, where y'all going? Don't leave now. He keep muting me. I'm unmuting myself. Shut your bitch ass up. Like, he's like, the dude kicked me out. There was one Black American girl left in there talking about, so, our people, I'm sorry for that. You're sorry for what, bitch? Don't apologize for me. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry that you even still in that live. You a weak hoe. And that shit is annoying. Like, you motherfuckers be weak, bro. And that's the thing. That's what I really want to, that's really why I made this whole live. Or not live. That's really why I made this whole video, though. It's to be honest about the situation and you see her honesty is that she felt like we wasn't shit until she really started doing the research on who's really putting in the work for the diaspora as a whole. I'm not saying that Haiti didn't get their own independence and Jamaica didn't do their own thing to get their freedom and everybody in the diaspora didn't have their own ways of doing their own thing. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that when it comes to a unified Black diaspora, Black Americans have put in the bulk of the work for this. Black Americans have put in the bulk of the work. Black Americans basically created the idea. There was never an idea of a unified Africa in Africa because Africa was never unified to begin with. We created this whole idea for a unified black diaspora, but at the end of the day, Africa has never been unified. You know what I mean? How can you ask for unity from somebody who's never had unity? They've always been different countries there. They've always been a diverse people. They're not the same. So me saying I'm not African, and even somebody saying, well, you're African, you come from Africa, that has nothing to do with an Ethiopian. You're not from West Africa. You know what I mean? You're not from West Africa. We didn't come from you. If we did come from Africa, we would have came from a West African. So why is any African besides a West African speaking? Second off, if you're a West African and you speaking, you need to be more specific. You need to text for a unified black togetherness is just kind of crazy. You know what I mean? When you look on the continent of Africa, all of these people are diverse people, and they've been tricked into believing that they're all African. I don't even think they've been tricked into believing that they know they're not all African. So telling Black Americans that you're African is disingenuous because we can't all be African. Either we're Nigerian, Ghanaian, we're some type of West African, but that has nothing to do with anybody in East Africa, Egypt, Sudan, all those places over there. So saying we're African would mean that we belong to the continent of Africa. We don't belong to anybody. You know what I mean? We're Black Americans because we've created our own culture and our own identity. And this reminds me of tribes like splitting up in Africa and becoming two different states or countries, or two different, how you can get like a West Algeria, East Algeria. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like once we're one people, but now they're respected as their own groups, own sovereign countries who do their own thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But then when it comes to Black Americans who have been forcefully taken away from the tribe, okay, whatever, built their own culture for 500 years and did their own thing on a whole different continent. And this is only if, and trust me, I'm not saying that we're African and we come from Africa, or that I believe in the whole transatlantic slave trade narrative. I'm not saying nobody came over here on slave ships, but what I'm saying is I believe it was opposite. But we can get to that in another video. But what I am saying is that a lot of these motherfuckers don't understand the facts of. Please go sit down in the living room now. So really, it should only be. So honestly, truthfully, there should only be very few ethnicities in Africa, like Nigerians, anybody on the west coast of Africa that can be able to claim any type of that we come from them. You know what I mean? So saying that we're African, we're not African. We don't come from the whole continent of Africa, and every people in Africa has no. We come from Africa's the most diverse place. So obviously, we come from one tribe or one people in Africa, or some of us come from certain tribes and other tribes, but mostly all from the west coast of Africa. So talking about us as being African is basically saying that we are African from the continent of Africa, when we are obviously not. We're from the continent of America. And when you say from, it's always this weird distinction when you say from, because they can understand. So see, if you take an African and he comes over here, he's like, I'm a first generation a Black African American. I'm a first generation Nigerian American. I'm a first generation American. So you can take on the American identity and a whole nother country's identity, and you've only been there for what, 10, 20 years of your life. But for some people who've been there for 500 years, they still have to say that they came from Africa. And that's where they get it fucked up, is because a lot of people they don't really look at the scope of the time. And 500 years isn't a long time. We're not going to act like that's ancient, like we moved out of Africa 3,000 years ago. But what I am saying is that 500 years is a larger amount of time than one generation. And you can make a distinction that I'm a Black Brit. Like, I've never lived in Nigeria. I've never lived on the continent of Africa. And you can make the distinction of I'm a Black Brit. I've never lived on the continent of Africa. So, and I've lived in Britain all my life. I have, although your parents might have migrated from wherever, Nigeria or wherever in Africa. That does have nothing to do with your identity and who you are. You're a Black Brit. You can say you're a Nigerian British. You're an immigrant who immigrated there. But you wholly, or mostly, most people accept the culture that they raised around as their own culture. Okay. Black Americans have come here and created their own culture for 5 years. So how can y'all accept that one? What you does mean, man? And I think this is a big problem, is that there is a lot of Pan-African research and Pan-African shit done, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think Pan Africans get angry when you ask them to look at any other research. Like they delved into Africa, they're sold on that idea. So it's hard for them to say, okay, well now let's dig into America and see if there is any black heritage in America. No, they're so focused on disproving what they call pretendians that they don't even really want to honestly look at the information truthfully and make judgment on it or really do it. And it's just a big thing. But you know, with this woman, what I want to say is, you know, a lot of Africans feel like that about us. A lot of them do. They feel like we ain't shit but basketball players, drug dealers, thugs, hoes, pimps, all that, right? The fact that she actually had to dive into research that she was doing for her own country and seeing the contributions that African Americans or Black Americans put into that, and then all of a sudden she's like, okay, I can have a little respect for you now. I think that's the problem. It's the lack of understanding for what our culture truly is, because America has no respect for our culture. They don't treat it as our culture. People are allowed to cosplay our culture, do anything. People are allowed to dress like us and do whatever the fuck they want and act however the fuck they want. But pretty much, if we do it, like if I was to dress in a kimono today and go out walking around, they're gonna call it culture appropriation. But people are doing the signify step at their fucking thing, all the black shit, and it's fine. So we just gotta accept it that people will never understand us. They don't care to understand our culture and they don't care to understand our history. And one more message out to you Africans who's doing these lives on fucking the internet, doing these lives on the internet talking about you guys need to do your history. You guys need to have an IQ test. Nigga, check the writings of everything that you're sourcing. Check the writings of everything that you're doing. It comes mostly from Black Americans. So get the fuck out of here. And all the other shit, I wouldn't trust it if I was you. Keep telling us we don't know, we don't do our research, we don't know much about where we come from, we don't know the truth. We know more about your homeland than you do. You just believe what the white man told you about your homeland and schools and your curriculums that you had to go through, your westernized school systems. Yeah, I know about those. I know that you're taught the same shit we're taught. I know you're taught more about the transatlantic slave trade and what happened to us in our history than you are about dynasties in Africa. And I know for a fact that we don't learn about any dynasties in Africa and America in our curriculum. We learn about Chinese dynasties. We learn about Europe, kings and queens. We learn about Egypt. I guess you can call that an African dynasty, but that's not how they teach it in the book. So, y'all are the only people we don't learn about. Y'all are the only people you don't learn about. So remember that next time you come on there spitting bullshit about Black Americans need an IQ test, Black Americans are dumb, Black Americans. Nigga, fuck you. But it's been your boy Hendo. I appreciate y'all for checking in though, and we out.